Diversity and inclusiveness are actually at the very foundation of the EUI. In that sense, they're not simply things or values that we welcome, but they're actually part of our founding moment and also part of our institutional vision that emphasizes the interconnectedness between diverse languages and cultures and scientific approaches. But in more recent years, I think we've taken on the very challenging task of actually thinking beyond conventional ways of approaching questions of being and belonging. And in that context, there have been a range of spontaneous bottom-up initiatives that relentlessly examine how we can do better on questions of diversity and equality. But that's also coupled with a visionary senior leadership, administrative leadership, which is quite rare to see in an institution. And so at the formal institutional level, we've seen the establishment of the Diversity Committee, for which I'm a co-chair. We have the Gender Equality Committee. The academic service at the EUI has taken on an initiative called the First Generation Initiative that's meant to introduce first-generation PhD researchers and master's students to mentoring opportunities from senior scholars who've traveled the same academic path as them. We also have a working group on disability that's made concrete policy recommendations on how we can transform these beautiful villas that we call home into places that everyone can access and enjoy. But even more exciting for me as Dean has been to see the creative and spontaneous initiatives that have arisen from the bottom, from various members of the EUI community. So we have, for example, the EUI Refugee Initiative, which is run by volunteers, and it's meant to promote the well-being, the material well-being, and the integration of asylum seekers in Italy. We also have a decolonizing initiative that's now being promoted, that's intended to set up a platform for decolonizing knowledge and practice at the EUI. And more recently, we have, this is just in the making, so breaking news. It's the Eurocentrism, the interdisciplinary research cluster on Eurocentrism that questions the Europe being placed at the center of the world in terms of epistemology. So just a whole range of initiatives that are being undertaken. And there's probably more being cooked up even just as I speak. And as incoming dean again, it's really wonderful to see all this energy and enthusiasm, which is really contagious actually. So we get asked really often, why are we putting so much effort into these initiatives? Why is equality and diversity in academia so important, including at the EUI? And to which, the simple answer is, how could it not be? To diversity, equality, they're part of the very core mission and values of higher education. To quote my fellow Midwesterner, I am a proud Midwesterner, Kurt Vonnegut, new knowledge is the most precious commodity we have on earth. And so the more truth we have, the richer we become. And so in this sense, diversity, working in a truly diverse and inclusive environment, brings new knowledge to each one of us, which helps us to develop our cognitive capacities, our capacity for critical thinking, our affective abilities, our interpersonal relationships, all of which go much beyond academia and much beyond the world of research to make for engaged citizens. We cannot attain excellence unless we have diversity that's engaged at all levels in support of that endeavor. And to do any less would actually be a disservice to our community, to our academic community, but in particular to our researchers, because we want to prepare them to be engaged and active members in society, not just in academia. And relatedly, we look to our universities to provide both civic as well as moral leadership. And if we have EDI in the process, it helps connect the academic community, the university community, to the broader society, that it should both reflect but also serve. And for me, the question has always been, how can we even claim to fight the good fight if we cannot claim to represent the society that we're meant to serve, and we cannot identify their needs, and we cannot empathize with their concerns? So as the new Dean of Equality, Diversity and Inclusiveness, for me the first and most important thing would be to put in place systems and processes so that no matter who you are at the EUI, you feel seen and you feel heard. Because for us as academics, what we read, study, write, teach is not simply our work, it's an extension of us as human beings. And so for us, the EUI is not simply a workplace, but it's also our home, our academic home. And the difference between a home and a house, just any house, any old house, even if it's a centuries old house, is that a home is where you can feel, where you can be yourself, and where you can share that space with people who will support your hopes and your dreams and your ambitions. And so as Dean, I don't want to know about you just as a statistic or a data point, because data can't tell us stories. I want to know about you. What's your story? And what can we do to help you thrive and to achieve your full potential? The second is that as a lawyer, I'm well aware that talk is cheap. And so all the conversations we have, the discussions we have, and the public statements that we make, they have to be followed by concrete action and also by accountability mechanisms to make sure that we actually make good on our promises on diversity and inclusion. And of course, this will require continued commitment from the EUI leadership. But while the leadership can mandate diversity, it cannot cultivate inclusion. And for that will require intentional action on all our parts in the EUI community to actually promote a culture that celebrates diversity and inclusiveness. And as Dean, I would like to explore principles and practices that we can put in place to actually inculcate that sense of collective responsibility. And finally, I would like to look beyond our confines to our national and international partners in this endeavor. And the EUI in that sense is a heterogeneous archipelago of researchers and professors and staff and visitors who bring with them the knowledge and experiences of their previous institutions and what has worked and what hasn't worked in those diverse institutional settings. And we can and should learn from those experiences. But I would like us to be more ambitious and actually play a field-shaping role in actually generating best practices for equality, inclusivity, and diversity. The challenge as in any university setting and in any academic setting is how do you change and shift from an institution and an academic environment that was premised on a one-size-fits-all assumption to one that's actually more personalized and that actually caters to the individual in all their complexity.